Hey, Facebook friends, Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. Happy Tuesday! On this warm, sunny day, we are spending it outside. And so excited that you could join us on YWTV today. We're so happy that we can stay social as we're social distancing. But as we all know, all of our in home orders are slowly getting lifted, and there's more and more opportunity to get outside. But some people are feeling a little safer and more comfortable with that than others. But one place you definitely can get outside and feel safe was if you have a backyard and to be out there. And today we're going to have a lovely conversation to learn about something that we can do right in our homes if you have the space. So I'm so grateful to have Lana Mustafa joining us today. She is the farm director at Montclair Community Farms and a self proclaimed urban homesteader. Um, she and her family live in Clifton, and they have a bountiful garden, which I think we can see a little bit of right behind her there. And she
Yeah.
raises not only her garden, but she raises chickens and bees. I can't wait to hear all about this. She's always felt a strong connection to nature, and she's on a mission to support, promote, and encourage people to a path of environmental awareness. And, you know, it's been obviously a time of crisis for our country, but this crisis has actually led to a wonderful pause for our environment. So we can talk a little bit about that as well. And I also have to do a shout out. We connected with Lana thanks to one of our newest employees that we're so happy to have join us, Lana Mustafa, who someday soon will be on YWTV talking about the work that she'll be doing for us. We're so excited that she joined our team as our girls coordinator at the YW. And funny small world conversation. Ileana and I were talking last week about the girls programming that she is planning for the YW. And during that conversation, we ended up talking about Montclair Community Farms because it's someplace, you know, that I've always been interested in. And she made the connection of, you know, where we are. So he's here today, introduced us to her sister, who knew, small world. So
Small world.
Lana, welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Helen and Eliane
Yes,
and
yes.
Lori. Shout out to
Yes,
Lori too.
yes, yes, yes. There was lots of strange connections that was made today meant to be for sure.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
we're so happy to have you, and you look so wonderfully relaxed and comfortable. I think I see a chicken behind you walking
You
around, by the
absolutely
way.
do. You get to see some of my herb garden, a beautiful compost bin there, and my chicken coop.
That is so exciting. So I want to hear all about it. But
Yep.
before we do that, um, first of all, I want to tell everyone that you should be following Montclair Community Farms, and you can also follow Lana on her Instagram page, This Be Lana, and we will both have both of these links for you in our comments so that you can follow. But before we get into it, let's hear about Montclair Community Farms. Tell us about this wonderful organization.
So, Montclair Community Farms is a really small nonprofit located in Montclair. Our mission is to educate and engage our community through farm food and health. And what that means is we have two beautiful garden sites where we grow everything you can possibly think of. We are growing herbs, cabbages, kale, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, pretty much everything you'd find at a farmer's market with the help of our youth. So, we usually have youth run teams. So we have youth farmers and we also have college interns who support us and do a lot of the work alongside me. And we take all of that beautiful organic produce and load it up in our mobile farm stand, which is exciting. We just started on Friday. And then we take that to our local senior citizens. And we have a beautiful pop up market, and we just engage with them, talk to them, hang out. We've Over the years we've built beautiful relationships. They are so excited to have us back, especially with like things going on with COVID. They've been cooped up, so this was like kind of exciting for them. And we are just having so much fun under the sun, learning how to grow our own food, really empowering youth, connecting people to the land, and making gardening cool again, I guess.
That's so amazing. And what a wonderful connection to, take and bridge that work with our, senior citizens in our community and,
Oh yeah.
bring them fresh fruits and vegetables. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually a beautiful thing to also witness, like the intergenerational conversations. Like I have my youth farmers are usually from 12 to 15, and then my seniors are of course seniors. So, they're always playing around, joking with the kids and encouraging them, and it's a cute dynamic. I really enjoy being a part of that.
So we'll talk more about what's going on over at Montclair Community Farms before we close out. But now let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into the good stuff. So tell us how you got inspired to grow your own food. Where did that come from?
So I began gardening at a really young age. I think I started around second grade when I learned about the germination process. Something about, you know, activating a seed just inspired me. It lit something up. I was so curious. I was so fascinated. It was basically like magic to me at that time. So second grade, I just picked up some beans, stuck them in the ground, and every day I would like dig them out and try to see what's going on. And ever since, I've just been like planting gardens, learning trial and error. And now I have a beautiful homestead in Clifton. I have three amazing kids, which also kind of inspires me to continue my curiosity. And here I am with bees, chickens, and a garden full of vegetables.
Yeah, I keep seeing the chickens walk by and I'm totally distracted by them, I have to share.
Oh,
They
I
are
hope
absolutely
I hope
so
they
cool.
don't become too loud. I warned my kids and I can control them, but I cannot control the chickens.
I love the chickens. I love the chickens. So that's how you got inspired to start gardening. And obviously, you've taken it personally to an amazing, clearly, because we can see it behind you, to really some amazing heights. So, for those of us
Yeah.
that really, I've actually had a garden on and off over the years here in our backyard where I'm sitting right now. Um, but some of the challenges for us have been uh, remembering to water it regularly. I have to admit that was basically one of them. And
Very
two,
common.
I know they're all God's creatures that are out here with us, right? But sometimes you do all this hard work and then they start enjoying all your hard work before you ever get to enjoy any of the fruits or
It's
vegetables of your
true.
labor. So I think those were some of the challenges that we had when we were doing it. But, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work for sure. But I have to say, there was nothing better than when you sprouted a flower and then sprouted a tomato or a zucchini or a cucumber or a string bean or strawberries, all the stuff that we grew. So talk us a little bit through someone who has never had a garden. How do you start? Where do you start? What do you
Hmm,
need? What do you need to do it?
that's a great question. You basically start. That's the first step. You have to have a good intention, and for me, it's about bringing an open mind and accepting that you're starting from scratch and it's okay to fail. Your plants will die. It's okay. It happened to me. I have tons of garden fail stories. And I often have to kind of encourage people to just not give up. Just because, you killed one plant doesn't mean you're going to kill them all. Plants are also super forgiving. So, just keep that positive attitude going. Another thing is you have to kind of assess your situation, your living situation. I have this thing where it's like if you see a lawn, that's a possibility. If you have green grass growing on your property, you can plant something there. But of course, that's not ideal, and a lot of people are living in smaller apartments. So you can also consider planting in pots and containers or becoming a member at a community garden. So those are some really introductory points. And to me, it's all about just getting your hands dirty and taking that first step, honestly.
And
And
truly
with
getting,
COVID,
yeah.
thanks to COVID, we have thousands of people taking that first step, and the garden centers are just jam packed, and it's a really exciting time for people. I think this was an opportunity for them to kind of engage and kind of get their hands dirty and connect and start growing their own things, and it's been an adventure for many people.
So in this part, for those of us watching that are from New Jersey, because with YWTV you could be tuning in from anywhere, but for those of us that are tuning in from New Jersey, Are there certain fruits or vegetables that are better to grow here just because of our
Sure.
climate and our soil?
Of course. So you want to first assess your location. Of course, here in New Jersey, we range from about 6A to zone 6B. So you want to know your zone. That's a quick Google. Just type in your growing zone. Usually they give you a little slot and you can pop in your zip code and they'll tell you everything you need to know. Of course, we do have really cold winters, so you also want to consider that when choosing your plants. If you're doing something like fruits or trees, those are long-term crops, so you definitely need to know your zone. You want to know if you're planting this tree and then whether or not it's going to survive the winter. In terms of summer vegetables, the it's just endless. You can do anything you want over the summer. It's like free reign. It's my season. Um, it just matter. The only thing that really matters is when you start your seeds.
Hmm.
And if you were growing something that had a really long window, you would just want to start them super early. But now's a good time to get your tomatoes and peppers in the ground, nurture them. And New Jersey's very well known for their tomatoes.
Yes, actually, I just stuffed 14 very large ones, Greek style, last night that were beauties. So I have to say, coming from Jersey, you definitely were definitely lucky to be bountiful and beautiful tomatoes. So
Yeah,
you
well,
said
Jersey is the Garden State, right? So
that's right, we are, aren't we?
wear that
Um,
with pride.
Pride for sure. So let me ask you, you said something that was interesting to me. So, in my mind, because of course I'm not an aficionado at this, you is it better to first plant the seeds in something smaller and then transfer them, or is it okay to start putting them right into the ground?
I think that depends on what you're planning on growing. So some things like radishes and beets and root vegetables prefer to be planted in the ground. And they also have a really short growing window. If you have an intention to grow tomatoes, you want to start them really early. And when I'm talking early, I'm in the greenhouse in February and March. Of course, you can't plant them direct seed in the ground at that time. So you want to start them indoors. So there's a little bit of, calendar issues in terms of seed starting, but for now, you can still start lettuce in pots and then move them in. You can also do other things like corn, cucumbers. Now's a good time for all of these crops, and they have a shorter growing season. So definitely a good time to start them.
So even though it's June 23rd and someone's watching it today, they should not feel like, oh, I missed the season. I'm not going to
Oh
start.
no, the
We're
season. I
good.
mean, the season's just getting started. We just started summer technically, right? So if you wanted to start something now, I would recommend going to a nursery and maybe picking up some seedlings which have been started for you. And there are tons and tons of options. You can go from any variety you want. You can do something fancy or something simple. You can do cherry tomatoes for a quick turnover, or you can do like a nice beefsteak, which takes a little longer, but definitely get out there soon.
Wonderful. So, can you explain the difference between organic farming and non-organic farming? And as a someone who would pop up a garden in our backyards, could we be an organic farmer?
I think so. As long as you're using organic practices, I think anybody can become an organic farmer. To me, I really try to encourage that. I think that using organic practices kind of builds a relationship with the land. You really want to learn your soil, kind of encourage biodiversity. The difference with non-organic practices is you're basically injecting a ton of synthetic chemicals into your soil. You do get a quick turnover. You may get a beautiful huge tomato, but what you're doing to the soil is detrimental and you're actually killing the microorganisms that promote life. And come next year, you're going to have to continuously add and inject chemicals and fertilizers. When you do it organically, you're feeding the soil. So you add things like compost, manures, things that are biodegradable and can regenerate life and also provide the soil with nutrients and also feed, like I said, the microorganisms in the soil, like, all of our tiny little bacteria and fungus and worms and, all the life that's in our ecosystem. So organic is, I lean more towards organic because I want my relationship with the earth to be a healing one, not kind of
Yeah, that makes sense.
exploiting in a sense. I don't want to exploit the land.
Yes, well, that totally makes sense. So for the first time gardeners watching, if we decide, okay, after watching this, we're going to, jump into it. What are some of the tools that we would need to purchase? Because I know when you go into garden centers, there's, aisles and aisles of options. What are the basics?
Some basics I recommend would be gloves. A lot of people have a hard time getting their hands dirty at first, and that kind of keeps them outside of the garden. So definitely gloves. You definitely want a hand trowel just to do some basic digging, things like that. And if you were starting from scratch, you might want to consider like a raised bed or some pots, and then some organic soil, garden soil, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And then of course your plants. So it's pretty basic. You have your little pot maybe, and you have your little tomato seedling. You get your soil, you tuck that all in together, and then you just water and watch it grow.
So
And trust the process, of course, because the plants are genetically built to grow.
right, right. As everyone watching, are you watching the little chickens walking behind Lana as she's talking? I'm just mesmerized by them. I love them.
I
So
can
tell
carry my
us,
computer around and introduce
yes.
them.
So tell us a little bit about what made you jump into bees and chickens and adding them to the beautiful garden I see behind you. Because obviously that's a whole nother level of commitment for sure.
So I've always been a gardener, and when I moved into this house 10 years ago, I had a really small garden plot. I had a 4x4 raised bed, and about 5 years ago, my kids were a lot younger, and I decided to get them spring chicks. I bought into the hype, like Easter hype, and my kids loved them. They were really excited. And then I kind of didn't plan for like what happens after my kids got sick of the chickens. And I've always been attracted to chickens. Like I just thought they were the coolest things. I've always wanted them as a kid. So I ended up just raising them in my basement, and then it snowballed. So I ended up with 5 pullets, which are baby chickens, teenage chickens. And one thing led to another. I went on Craigslist and I saw that somebody was giving away this dog shed, and I was like, hey, I see some potential there. And then one thing led to another, and then I ended up keeping the chickens. They began laying, and then it started growing and like morphing. They started taking up more space in the garden. And similar to the chicken situation, with bees, I was like learning more about pollination and how important bees are to our ecosystem. And then I learned about colony collapse disorder, which is basically what's ravaging bees all over the world. Bees are dying at an alarming rate. And one of the action steps that I read about was becoming a beekeeper. And I remember kind of like telling my family, like, I'm thinking about getting bees, and people like telling me, you're crazy, you're taking this too far. How are you going to have thousands of bees in your yard? You have children, think about them. Um, and I learned the whole process. I kind of took a year studying bees and reading books and watching videos and obsessing basically. And then finally committing. I found myself a mentor, this older gentleman in Clifton, Brian, and I called him and I was like, hey, I'm interested in becoming a beekeeper. And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do this. And off I went.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
that's definitely a level of commitment, for sure. We're having a question that came from the from our viewers is, do you need a special permit to raise chickens or to do beekeeping?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to check your town ordinances regarding bees and chickens. Some cities like Clifton allow it depending on the location of your coop, and others just outright say no. So it's definitely something you want to kind of look into yourself.
Okay, thank you. So, kind of getting back to the gardening, another question that, we always hear about composting. So, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, could you share what composting is and maybe what the process is if we want to start doing it and why we would want to?
Yes, of course. So compost is basically taking things that naturally decompose and go back into the earth and repurposing them. It's another way to recycle and feed your garden at the same time. So what I do is I have a little bin right at my kitchen on my kitchen counter. And as I'm cooking, I am putting away all my scraps. So anything that's from a plant or, eggshells goes into my bin, along with any types of like newspapers. So you want greens and browns. Any food scraps would be greens, and then browns would be considered straw, paper, brown leaves, things like that. And then you have your compost system. You can have anything from like a wire mesh that holds everything together, or you can have something like what I have in the back there. You kind of see a tumbler. And you basically just contribute to the pile and allow the natural process to occur, which is the breakdown process. There's some minor things you want to look for. You want to make sure the moisture levels are okay. You want to make sure you're adding a proper ratio of greens and browns to make sure things don't get stinky. There's a science to it basically. But once you get the hang of it, it's a really fun way to kind of contribute back to the environment by avoiding the landfill. So all of these materials would have eventually ended up in some landfill. And instead, I'm taking them, repurposing them, and then feeding my garden with them. So it's not too difficult. I feel like, if you put in enough effort to kind of understand the science, it's easy peasy.
That's great. Well, I see that one of our viewers is Diana Ross, and she was our guest on YWTV last week talking about skincare. And seeing her name and seeing you with that beautiful hat on your head, made me think about what are some of the things we should be thinking about protecting ourselves when we are gardening, because obviously we want our garden, I'm guessing, right, to be in the sun.
Yeah. So of course, if you're growing, there's these rules. If you're growing it for fruit, you want it to be in full sun. If you're growing the plant for its leaves, partial. And then if you're growing it for the root, also partial. So if you want something like a nice juicy tomato or a pepper, you definitely need it to be in full sun. So they need about 6 to 8 hours of sun. And you're not out there all day, of course, watching your plants grow. We all have lives and we're out and about. So it's really important to remember to stay hydrated when you're in your garden, to use sunscreen or a hat to kind of protect your head, especially right now. It's like, 1 p.m., the sun is just beaming.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm out in the garden with my interns, I'm constantly reminding them to take water breaks, to stay hydrated, and to make sure their skin is protected. I tend not to like wear very revealing shirts because that sun bearing down is, I try to avoid sunburn. But yeah, definitely important to protect your skin in the garden.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Good advice. Good advice. So tell us a little bit about how COVID has impacted your work over at Montclair Community Farms. And I know that you normally have a wonderful farm camp and lots of great activities, for the kids this time of year. How are you getting through this year? And I'm sure everything will be back full force next year so everyone can stay connected to learn about it. But tell us a little bit about what's happening for the summer.
So COVID kind of struck us at a really important time in the season. We actually are in the Van Vleck greenhouse. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
ever been to
I
Van
have.
Vleck Garden. They have a beautiful property,
Beautiful.
and we are in partnership with them. So we were starting our seeds in their greenhouse. We had tons and tons of plants. And as an organization, we rely on volunteers. We rely on volunteers through the Master Gardeners program of Essex County. And as many people know, those volunteers are usually senior citizens. So as soon as COVID hit and things started like shutting down pretty quickly, I was wiped out of volunteers. So I was in the greenhouse pretty much alone. I called in Beth, my coworker Marissa, and we were taking shifts and just seeding and watering and taking on all this responsibility and really kind of reevaluating the situation. Of course, we wanted everyone to be as safe as possible, so we were in the greenhouse wearing masks and gloves. It was a tricky situation, but we ended up successfully growing over 3,000 seedlings. We had a really great plant sale. Our gardens are loaded with beautiful vegetables right now, and we actually donated so many seedlings to people in need. So that transition, I think, in the greenhouse went really great. Now that things are kind of loosening up, and the governor had announced a few weeks ago that outdoor places are essential, and of course, farms are very essential. We allowed for some interns to join us, and we're also taking precautions. So we're trying to maintain social distancing. We're wearing our masks whenever we're up close, and the same thing goes for our markets. So we of course are interacting directly with seniors, so we have to be very, very careful with handling the food. We have to be very, very careful with how close we are with people, the money exchanges. And we're hoping as the season kind of continues on and things kind of lighten up, that will allow for more people to come and visit the farm it is an open space after all, and we kind of want people to feel free, get some fresh air, get their hands dirty. We haven't really allowed for large group events yet, but we do have the chickens there, and people are welcome to come over and feed them, kind of take a stroll around the garden. That's always welcome. And, when we're there, we're answering questions, of course, and, trying to do the best we can given the situation. We want to encourage people as much as possible to get in their gardens. There's no reason to be cooped up inside, literally. Like, you could be
Yeah,
outside doing really cool things, supporting your own ecosystem, kind of whether you're gardening, hiking, bird watching. There's tons of fun things to do outside in the garden or in your backyard or pretty much anywhere.
that's wonderful. So everyone, definitely stay in touch with the website for Montclair Community Farms so you could see about their programs. And when everything is back to kind of regular activity, you can sign on for the full kit and caboodle when they're back, in March. And we
I
we have a volunteer for you also that
Oh,
has,
lovely.
made a comment for us, one of our viewers. So we'll definitely put a link so that you can connect there and get a new volunteer.
I
That's great.
I have a question for you, Helen.
Hmm.
Did you get out into the garden during COVID?
I have been out gardening. Actually, I spent hours in a Father's Day. Actually, my husband, Father's Day rule. What would you like to do today? And he wanted to spend it doing work in the garden. So we were out
Nice.
here for, which is where I'm sitting. We were out here for hours and hours. I'd say probably about 6 hours straight, planting and cutting back trees and bushes, and making the garden ready. We for years did a true vegetable garden. We haven't done it in a year or two, but I've just been looking at, over the last year, I've been looking at potentially investing in gardening beds, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just doing it straight in the earth. But I wasn't, I'm, not trained in this, and I'm totally, feel my way through. But it looks kind of interesting to maybe start putting some beds around. I thought maybe that'd be easier to
Yeah.
manage than what we're dealing with
I
weeds
I
growing and stuff
actually
popping up.
agree. I actually agree. I think raised beds are a really great way to go. It kind of keeps things separate from your grass or your
Yeah,
lawn and kind of elevated so less weeds are growing in there. And then once you like what's the word I want to use? It's really long. But once you section things out, it's easier to kind of target and then weed out. So instead of seeing like one whole big garden, you have sections of it, and it makes it easier on me. So when I'm looking at my garden, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do section 1 today, and then I feel accomplished once that's done, and then I go on to
the
section
next
2.
one.
So raised beds kind of help you space that out and really do help it make it more welcoming, I guess, and not
Yeah, I think we
overwhelming.
were thinking it'd be more manageable because this summer, since I have little kids, so since we're spending a lot of time in our yard, I thought that would be a great activity for them to get involved with. So we were
Oh
looking at
yeah.
that. We had a question come in about your chickens. The question is, are you allowed to eat your chickens, and do you eat your chickens? Um,
Oh, my
I would think
chickens
they,
have Yeah, my chickens have names.
yeah.
Some of them we raised from like day old chicks. We are not vegetarian or vegan, so we do eat chicken, but my kids would have a really hard time knowing that we are eating like sunshine for dinner one day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the answer to that is no, I do not eat our chickens.
I guess I'm not sure if the
They're
question is, are you
yeah.
allowed to raise chickens and eat them? The ones that you
Oh,
not oh not you maybe that's the question. I'm not entirely sure. So
I
let's answer that.
wouldn't have the answer for that.
Okay.
Whether or not you're allowed to raise like meat chickens locally, I'm not sure. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that you would need to check with your town for
Yeah,
that.
maybe your board of health might be the person
Yeah,
to reach out to.
definitely,
So let me
definitely.
ask: are
Yeah.
those honeycombs that you have on your earrings?
Yes.
I
So one of my volunteers at the farm, actually, I haven't seen her. She's very dedicated. Her name is Caroline. She's been with us for 3 years. She reached out to me and she's like, "Hey, is it safe to come to the farm? I really miss you guys." And she actually handmade these. So
They're
I
beautiful.
love them so much. I have all this like chicken and bee paraphernalia all over my house, and I kind of wanted to like represent
I
and
love them. Well, she did a beautiful
show
job.
her show her how much I love them.
Well, shout out to her for her talent and
Yeah, thank you, Caroline.
yes, yes. Well, look, thank you for sharing so much. Very, very, very interesting. Oh, we're asking, eat the eggs, they hatch. Okay, that's good information. And I'm guessing, it looks like your whole family's well represented on this
Oh
speaking. I like
yeah,
how
of
the
course.
Mustafa family sticks together. So that's a good sign. Shout
Yeah,
out to the clan
we're
there.
we're trying to be supportive of one another
That's
and
wonderful.
encourage our own
Well,
growth,
just the
right?
two of you that I know. Shout out to your parents because I know now I
Oh,
know
thank you.
two of the family and two amazing women that I've met. So I'm sure the whole family is equally as
Thank
impressive.
you.
Equally as
Thank you.
impressive.
I appreciate that. And to
So we're
anybody who's
yeah,
watching and has questions, please feel free to reach out and ask questions. I'm always eager to encourage people to get their hands dirty, so
yes.
don't hesitate.
Yes, so again, we'll have all the links so that you can connect to the Montclair Community Farms and through that learn a little bit more about the programs and maybe some ideas how you can get a garden set up in your own house. And let me ask you this, for someone who doesn't have the ability to do it at their house, is there a link somewhere where they can connect to community gardens and around? Is there a website we can attach for them?
So if they reach out directly to Montclair Community Farms, we are active and engaged in other community gardens in the area, and we can definitely connect people with space, or they can just volunteer with us as much as possible. And I'm always giving away free veggies. Like nobody walks away empty-handed when they come into the gardens. I'm like,
Oh,
here,
well,
try this, take this home, plant this, plant that. I'm like shoving things down people's throats sometimes.
well, you heard that, folks. That sounds like a reason enough just to visit. So we'll hopefully then, if you're interested in a community garden somewhere in your area, connect with Montclair Community Farms, and you can learn that too. And again, don't forget to follow Lana herself at this Bee Lana, and we'll put her link here on Instagram so you can follow her adventures in her own garden that's beautiful and right behind her. And as I keep saying, I'm very entranced
Thank
by your
you.
little friends that are keep running back and forth behind you. So thanks you to
Any
everyone.
questions for the chickens?
Yes, yeah, I
We have
know.
to.
Hey, well, why don't you go grab a chicken while and bring one over? Can you bring one over to say hello?
I totally do.
Go get a chicken, and I'm going to tell everyone what's coming later this week. I'm obsessed with the chickens. I had to ask. Okay, so while Lana's grabbing a chicken, we will let you know that our other programs this week include tomorrow. You don't want to miss Makeover Magic with Jen Bladell, Nipa Sidkar, Lisa Emilo, and Shari Cannell. And we are making over two of our Healing Space staff members that were just promoted so that they would have new headshots. So we'll tell you all about that tomorrow. And Friday, we have a great program for you. Secretary of State Tahisha Way will be joining us to talk about the current state of voting in New Jersey, mail-in ballots, all that good stuff. And it's part of our Why Women Vote series. So please join us on Friday as well. And big finish today, big finish. We've got a chicken to join us. Now, who is this?
This is Sunshine. Can you
Oh,
guys see her?
I see her.
She
Hi,
is a buff
Sunshine.
Orpington chicken, and she lays very pretty light tan eggs. She's been with us for about 4 years, so she's kind of senior now. Say hi. She's like, why am I on camera? This is not normal.
She's so cute. She's so cute.
She's
Well, I can't wait
calm.
to show. I
Pretty
can't wait to
friendly.
show my kids later. Hey, you guys, you want to see a chicken? Come here. We'll see if they'll come over. Anyway, and so I have to thank you again for everything. Thank you for sharing your chickens. Here, come see a chicken. Look. She's got a chicken pet.
Say
That's Sunshine.
I want a chicken.
I don't blame you. I want one too.
Chickens are fun. Once you
So-
have one, you just need way more. I have 12 right now.
I can understand
Probably,
that.
probably pushing my limit.
My daughter's inviting us over to your house so we can meet your chickens.
Absolutely. You're local enough, Helen.
So we thank you for sharing your beautiful garden and so many wonderful tips with us today. And thank you for showing us Sunshine for the big finish. And everyone, we hope you have a great day. Stay cool. Like this one's in the sprinkler. What can you see?
Yeah.
There she is in the sprinkler. And we hope you all have a great day and stay well. And we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thanks, Lana. And go check out Montclair Community Farms, everybody.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone.
Be well.
Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.